So, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today for Inspired Entrepreneurs Week. This speaker series is brought to you by the MSU Denver College of Business, Department of Management, and Center for Entrepreneurship. I am Becky Prater, and I'm the host today. I believe if we see what it looks like to be an inspired entrepreneur, we are more likely to become one. So today, I want to introduce Farnoosh uh, and tell you a little bit about her company, and then she will tell you her story. So Farnoosh began this company in her kitchen as a part of her own healing journey. She needed better foods to heal after having children, and ghee was the perfect nourishing fat for that postpartum time. In her first year, she made over 100 jars in her home. They have since moved to a commercial space, but are committed to maintaining a small batch feel, which I feel like is a really important thing. They only source the best USDA, non-GMO, organic, and grass-fed dairy to make their ghee. So I would like to start by having you tell us about your business. How did you get into the business? What inspired you to start your business? Just share the whole journey, and then we'll go from there.
Absolutely. And I can share my screen, which I think will help me then show some of my slides. Okay, thank you for the intro. So I'll start with my story. Let me hide this.
Oh yeah, can you? Oh yeah, thank you.
Is
Perfect.
that better?
That's great. Yeah, that's great.
You do this. Okay. Like Becky mentioned, I started making ghee in my home kitchen. It was after I had kids, and I just had a number of health issues that were a little difficult to diagnose. There wasn't really any like one thing that was going to help me, even though I saw doctors and had various tests done, but there was some like sort of nebulous type of things like autoimmune issues, some just like general recovery from having children that just wasn't really working. I felt my worst basically at that time. And so that was when I really turned to literally anything that I thought could help me. So I tried a whole bunch of different things. And what ultimately helped me focus in on my health and feel a lot better was Ayurveda, which is a traditional form of healing from India, thousands of years old. And a big part of that
Huh?
is, eating
No, no.
foods and having, good nourishing ingredients. And that includes some herbs as well. And ghee was also a part of that. It's just such a good, healthy fat for you. And so I started making it in my home kitchen. And I was also, making infused flavors. So I would put in herbs into the ghee because that would be just a great way to have the herbs incorporated into your food. And then I would give it to other people and they would come back for more. So I thought, okay, what if you know, at that time when I started, I thought, what if I just sold some of this product to a boutique shop that used to be here in Denver that catered to postpartum parents because it helped me so much in that time. And this could be, something that I can offer. And what I didn't know was that you can't just sell food just wherever you want. There's different things like licensing and regulations around that. But what you can do is in Colorado, we have the cottage industry laws. So you can make food in your home kitchen and sell if you're selling directly to a consumer at a place like a farmer's market. So that was a really nice low barrier to entry way to just test out the idea of, does anybody even want this product? The cost of entry is low. Your application fee is maybe like $50 for the season. You buy a tent and table and things like that, and, enough to make your product. And then you can find out pretty quickly what consumers think, and you can talk to people and see what kind of questions they have. And so for the first 2 years, that was our main way to start this business. And I learned a lot just from what people would ask, what kind of feedback they had, what they wanted to know, or, whatever they wanted to share about the product. So it was a really great way to just get to know people and see how our product could be used. And, it's also really exciting because it was like the first time that these are people who I did not know or are not related to me. And so in that way, it was like actual people who wanted to purchase the product. And that was really exciting. And it also showed me how like important the storytelling part of the brand was too, because any of these people could purchase ghee in a supermarket from a, mass produced company like Organic Valley or Fourth and Heart. But when they do something like that, they miss out on this other part of being a part of this brand and, feeling this closeness with us. So that really required us to cultivate that relationship and also just be really good at telling the story of what we're doing and why. And so since then, we've expanded and now sell in stores because we no longer produce at home, thank goodness. It's, now we produce in a commercial kitchen, so we're able to sell in wholesale. And I wanted to give you just a little background into the costs that go into the business and just to show you some of the changes because it's like I sort of mentioned, there's like kind of constant iterations of what we've been doing. Having a product-based business, you have that ability to kind of change and modify what you're doing. So just to give you an example, in 22, the price of the butter that we were using, so the whole ingredient that we needed, and the jar and label and production costs are listed here. And this is just one of the SKUs that we have. So what I'm showing here in the example is the like large original ghee. And you can see it also has our previous label. So we went through a rebrand in between 22 and 23. Again, a part of getting the feedback from the consumers of, what needs to be on the packaging to make it a lot more clear. And it's also one thing to be able to sell a product when I have somebody in front of me and I'm there talking about it. But when the product is sitting on the shelf, that package needs to do a lot of the talking for you. So we went through that rebrand and really kind of honed in on our messaging in that year. And just from being able to purchase in larger quantities, moving to a different space, all of that, helped reduce our costs for production of that one SKU. I also had this, vision of moving us out of glass and into aluminum, which would have also further reduced our packaging costs. Because you can see from here, the packaging costs are pretty high. And I can talk a little bit more about that later of why we wanted to do that and why we ultimately didn't. But then, to today, you can see I switched the example to something that actually is in distribution. So something that is one of our SKUs that sells more and has our herb infused one. So this is an example of the rosemary and sage and how much that costs. So the cost of our butter went down. The jar and label, found new suppliers. Again, purchased larger quantities. That production cost includes what it costs for us to actually use a commercial kitchen space to produce, but it's actually bumped up a little more than that because, as you can see, there is no labor cost in here, and that labor is me. So I haven't actually paid myself from any of these sales, and I can explain more about that later. But this production cost is sort of inflated in here to kind of account for that. and then the herbs that go into it, and then there's a new cost, and that's the box. So you can kind of see in like a pallet, if I ship out a pallet of product, I can't just put these jars back into the box that they came in when they were not filled. I need to get these custom boxes made that are durable for the glass and can contain 6 units per box and then 6 boxes per master case. And so all of that now adds up to our new total cost for our cost of goods. That particular example, or the rosemary and sage, for example, here, the wholesale cost, what I sell it to at our for our distributor is $6.51, and then when it's on the shelf at the store, it's sold for $12.59.
Hey, now,
Um,
question.
yeah,
Go back to that slide. So how did you choose that wholesale price in particular?
yeah. So that was so this is an example from our first distributor. So the first time that I am actually going through someone else to sell the product as opposed to me directly to a retail outlet. And so I knew that the price that I sold it at, I wanted the ultimate price on the shelf to be something reasonable that it would get sold, right? Like I don't want to sell the product and it never move on the shelf because it's priced too high, then that account is gone. So I needed to find a price that I was comfortable with, that felt like there was enough of a margin that I could have some profit. And what else is not included here is any kind of marketing.
Mhm.
That also eats up some of that margin. So and I'm also showing you like that production price is inflated because we're in a commercial kitchen space currently, but the idea is that we would move to co-packing or have a co-manufacturer that would produce the product. And so I wanted to always have that in mind in how I price things, so that when it came time to that, I'd be able to still support it with if it does cost me $1 per jar for production, that's already built in.
Okay. Yeah, so is there like a standard? I know for clothing, there's this idea of keystone markup. And is there a different sort of markup that's common with food products?
There is a little bit of that. It'll vary distributor to distributor and retailer to retailer. So normally a retailer, like a larger grocery store, wants around 40% margin. And then a distributor that can vary from like 8% to 25%. So, and no one shares any of these numbers when you're
Mhm.
talking to them or trying to negotiate. So they constantly just ask you, give us your best number. And, it's like, well, it would help a lot if I could know what's going to happen to that number. Like, how much are you going to mark it up before it lands on the shelf? Um, but yeah, you don't really know, and all of that is partly negotiated and negotiable, but what you do have to account for, and that's a little bit of what I've done, and you'll see a little bit more on the other slides, is marketing. So I can get the product to the shelf, through the distributor, but the distributor doesn't help me move it. I still have to support it in that way.
Okay.
So, and that's what some of this next slide is. So, this is for our retail partner in Texas Central Market. They have 10 locations, and that's me in a hairnet giving out samples in the grocery store, trying to get new customers. So, if you can think about it, that means, I flew down there, got a rental car, brought all the equipment down there, spent the time there. So that was like my cost of acquiring new customers. But it makes a big difference because having that product sit on the shelf, unless you're looking for it or, have a lot of time and want to try something new, it's very rare for someone to just pick up something unless they've had some type of interaction or seen something about the product before.
Mhm.
And so a physical person being there to hand out samples And then, possibly tell you the story and possibly like engage a little bit more makes a big difference and helps move the product for sure.
Mhm. Yeah.
And so, throughout all of this, I've, found partnerships wherever I can. I've applied to anything and everything. I've done all kinds of, pitch slams or whatever. Gotten a lot of no's, but, I'll still try and just try to seek out support from organizations or anyone in my network that can either help me get in front of something or maybe access to grant funding.
Have you gotten
Um,
some grant funding?
I've gotten a grant. So one of them is on here, the Good Neighbor Fund. I won a competition there, so I got a grant from them. Nielsen IQ, I was a part of a fellowship for them. So it wasn't actually funding, but they sponsored a trip to a trade show to, help facilitate conversations. Colorado Proud, which is on our or was on our previous labels, they gave marketing funding for basically to help pay for marketing costs, which I used for printing labels, those for that first year. And then the World Trade Center of Denver, I also got a grant from them. And so that's a trade show, or these are two different trade shows. So to give you a little background, so the picture there on the left with me, that's my dad. I brought him out to the trade show to help me out at the booth because this was in New York. That's where I'm from. And then the funny thing, the two other people in that picture are from Instacart, which is one of our partners for advertising. And I have a little graphic at the bottom that shows our advertising spend. So that is somewhere where I spend some money trying to move some product. And then the one on the right, that's another friend of mine that I brought to a different trade show. So that was like kind of a girls' trip, but I was like, we're also going to work the whole time that we're there. So I hope you're fine with moving, luggage around and setting up a booth. But trade shows themselves get really expensive. That's actually another place that I got a grant. So for these two that I'm showing you, I got a grant from USDA for, and I won't remember the exact title, but it was something like the Rocky Mountain Food Business Centers. So for food businesses in like Colorado, Idaho, Wyoming, like this area, this region, they sponsored trips to a trade show. So they paid for the booth fee, which I think these booth fees are about 4,000 or so. And then they gave us a travel stipend of maybe $1,000. You still have to pay, like I still paid for, printing out the big sign, and getting a hotel and stuff like that. But it definitely made it much more accessible. That program is no longer there. It got cut. So that's really unfortunate for all the other small businesses. Otherwise, it's a really hard, barrier to entry to be able to attend something like that. It's a lot of money up front. But these trade shows, that's how I got some of the accounts that I have now. So I do appreciate having had that opportunity.
What is the name of the trade show that is
These two are, they're called Fancy Food.
okay? Oh, makes sense. Okay.
And our food is fancy, so it fits.
Yeah, fancy food. Oh, that's good. So it's very kind of very unique offerings. Okay.
It is. It's all like artisan type stuff, like people doing really, really interesting things.
Wow, I love that. Yeah, I used to go to trade shows too with my stuff, and it was very expensive, but so much fun. When you were there, did they have workshops and stuff that you could attend as well?
Yeah, it's a lot. Like there is definitely workshops and people presenting, and it'll be people that you really want to listen to, either from distributors or retailers, or even they'll have marketing support or all kinds of things or operations. but you also want to be at your booth so that you have the opportunity to like talk to whoever comes by, which is why I had, my volunteers come with me so that I could do a little bit of both. Because yeah, a lot of it is honestly networking, just meeting people, being at the show itself, but then there's also all the like after events where you get to talk to more people. You lose your voice by the end of the day, but yes,
Oh,
very necessary. So two other things that are part of, what we've invested in, and one is something that I believe in, which is the USDA organic. We have that seal on our product because we were using, I really do think it makes a difference in the quality of the final product because I have tried different suppliers and I can see what the end result is like. And I think for our consumer, that USDA organic seal matters, and it's something that will set us apart. We are already at such a high price point that it makes sense to, have that label on there too, to really signal to our consumers like, yes, it really is the best ingredient. And now having gone through their, application, certification, and our recent audit, it's a really intense process. And so I do appreciate that, like, that seal has a lot of like worth and merit. Non-GMO project, we had that seal last year. It's about to expire, I think, in 2 months, and I'm not gonna renew that because I just don't think that carries the same weight or signals the same thing, and it's really expensive. So I think for me to do that, it's another $4,000, which I'm not sure that I would, see a return on that investment. At least now. Maybe I'll, return to it some other time, but at the moment I'm not gonna renew that.
mm. Do you think, I think personally, when I see the USDA organic, I might presume the other.
Yeah. Which, okay, so I don't want to get into it too much, but you're entirely right. There is no like GMO in USDA organic. So that seal already encompasses that.
Mhm.
But there's a bit of a like marketing problem that USDA organic has where they haven't really explained all that to the public well enough that now there is these other, and like non-GMOs is one of them, probably maybe the most recognizable, but there's now all these other kind of certifications. Like you can even get like a grass-fed certification, but in order for a dairy to be USDA organic, it is grass-fed. But that's something that like the common consumer doesn't quite know. So some of that is unfortunate, and I wish USDA organic had better marketing around that, but you're entirely right.
I know it's like our job as promoters of product that is organic to tell the story.
Right,
I think
right.
that's part of it. I remember thinking I was like a green certified company, and it was more about telling the story and helping share the message than it was about anything else.
Mm-hmm. Very important part. Yeah.
You mentioned something about how you're charging more for your product. Well, like if you're charging 12.59 on the shelf, what do your competition, what did they sell theirs at?
So our 12.59 on the shelf is for a 5 ounce jar. And our competition is more like 11.99 for a 7 ounce.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So there's definitely a difference there. The other thing that sets us apart in all those comparisons is that we have these flavor infused
Mm.
ghees. So that's unique to us. And, you know, um, the examples of the stores that I gave, there aren't other ghees that have these infused flavors there. And that sort of justifies some of that increase in cost too, of like you're not only getting, you're not just getting the original, but you're getting something that's a little bit elevated too.
Hmm.
Um, and then so because I talked a little bit about marketing and where I put my efforts. We build out our website and include some recipes. I've hired some people to do some of that recipe development and then share to social and market there. And there's a range in price there. So, I reached out to a number of people and the range is it could be anywhere from like 200 for a recipe and a video up to like 2000. So, it can really just vary. So I picked two that were on the lower end and I got, I think pretty good content from it and also something that now I can use on the website. Um,
Were these influencers would they consider themselves influencers that did this for you or just people?
they're recipe developers. So not necessarily influencers. I think the influencers were the ones that were on the higher end of, who I contacted. But it's really hard to measure that return on investment for something like this. Like I could link it and have the affiliate link or whatever to see how many units I sell, but to invest, close to $2,000, I'm not sure that like how many units am I going to sell from that,
Mhm.
right? So something like having the recipe developed is at least some evergreen content that can just be there for anyone who like finds our page on social or on our website. The affiliate marketing through the influencers is so I don't know. I just felt like I wasn't necessarily going to get the return there that would support that kind of cost, at least from the ones that I saw. And that's something I'm open to exploring that more, but I'm pretty careful with like every dollar that we spend, and I want to make sure it can go as far as possible.
Interesting. Oh my gosh, that's so interesting.
But
I love,
something that, yeah. Okay.
imagine having that job. I'm always amazed at jobs that I would be like, oh, that'd be an awesome job. Being a recipe developer would be an awesome job.
Yeah, totally. I mean, they get to like eat all this good food too at the end of it. I mean, the people that I did end up working with, like they had like, pretty good camera equipment too, so they got really good stills. And they did all the editing, which I'm sure was, probably pretty easy for them, but
Mhm. Dang, that's so cool. Okay.
yeah. Um and then our platform that we use for our sales on our website is Shopify, so that we can do in-person sales and also online commerce. And I just wanted to show you within Shopify itself, there's a ton of add-ons of apps that help support your website that vary from free to expensive. And this is an example of one of them called Judge Me for reviews. And it's been nice. I've been using it for almost a year or maybe a little less than a year. And it automates, sending out an email to collect a review.
That's really nice.
Yeah, and that's been nice to add, some of that like proof of concept to the website. Because if someone does come across the website, having, actual people write reviews and not just our own content, I think is helpful. I have seen a little bit of an increase on online sales from having started that, but also that's also like age of the business, right? Like we've been here for more, so more people know us, so that it can all be compounded. I also want to talk about failures
Oh,
and things that did not work because there's a lot of that. But I just want to show you one example. I think 3 years ago, I tried Amazon. So we started an Amazon store page or storefront, and I worked with somebody who was a mentor. So luckily I didn't have to pay for that part, but I did have to pay for just like launching on Amazon. And she helped me figure out, there's a whole science to Amazon of the, what your images need to look like, what kind of bullet points. You need to have 5 bullet points. They need to, have these keywords for this product that people will search for when they buy this product. And so that was really helpful. And we launched with some test amount, and I don't know, I want to say maybe 100 units or something through their FBA, so fulfilled by Amazon.
Mhm.
And I had, a few friends and my mom order some to like test it out. And this is what happened. So, you know, our packaging is not ever going to be like suitable for Amazon. I know Amazon can ship glass, but I didn't want to like start investing in that quite yet because also, um, launching on Amazon, you can't just sort of launch and then like leave it be. There's so much competition there unless you're ready to invest in the marketing spend that goes with it, which is, some of the more successful CPG companies are going to be spending 2,000 a month just on advertising spend. So I didn't want to like focus on that quite yet, but this was at least a good test so that I can see what that's like and why we're not going to do it right now. Consumers on Amazon don't want a lot of excessive packaging, so you have to find this like Goldilocks of, something in between it being really secure and impenetrable to like, too flimsy that it's going to break or, what we have here.
Mhm.
But Amazon is at least a lot more transparent. Like you can figure out really easily, what is going to be your profit for that that SKU. So it's doable. It's just not something that we're going to invest in right now.
Wow. Now, is that what made you think that you might consider aluminum packaging?
Yeah, that was a part of it. However, I mean, aluminum is great in a lot of ways, but you can like get it dented, it can get scratched. Um, yeah, I think that was definitely a part of the appeal of aluminum. But I really do like the 100% recyclability of aluminum. Like it's the most recycled thing that's the cheapest to recycle. So in that sense, the environmental impact was a lot more appealing to me in using aluminum. The kind of problems with that were I've already launched this product. So each of the, you know, flavors or whatever we have, they have a SKU. And so to switch into aluminum, the size is going to change, which means it's a new SKU. And it's doable for like reaching new audiences, but for any of our existing accounts, it would be really hard to then switch them over to a new SKU, tell them I have this new size packaging. They might say, "What are you talking about? We don't want that," or they might discontinue. Like it's a little risky to do that. And then our production will change too, having the aluminum versus, what we're using right now in glass. So I sort of want to examine that when and if we move to a co-manufacturer and see if that's something that they're able to do. The like a little bit more the barrier to entry there is the price for packaging would definitely plummet because the label is printed directly on the aluminum. So there's no like additional step of labeling or cost of labeling. But the minimum quantities that I would have to start with are much higher. So it would be more like 10,000 units as opposed to now, which is like 1,000 units. So just having that, unless I have the sales for that, it's a little hard. It's a little bit like chicken and egg. Like I need to get the sales for it or line that up before I can kind of make that leap.
Wow. Okay. So it's interesting. I thought maybe there might be some interaction between the because I think the metal cans, the aluminum cans have to be lined with something in order for the contents to not react to the light to the metal.
Yeah, yeah. The ones that we would get would also have a lining, but that lining is like a really thin polymer lining that can still be, recycled. So that doesn't interfere with the recyclability, but it will prevent, anything happening. However, there is still that like consumer perception. Do our consumers specifically want to go from a glass jar to an aluminum container?
Mhm.
I'm not sure.
right? Because a glass jar is a lot more, I mean, it's higher level, or it seems like a more fancy product actually if it's in glass.
Totally.
Mhm.
Totally. So that, yeah, and that's another thing I'd have to consider.
Mhm.
Um, and then other ways that we try to get out into the community. I'm not doing as many farmers markets anymore. We pulled out of that, or we would do a few here and there. But I try to now just get out and do these kind of fun events. So I teach like cooking classes from time to time. I have an event coming up April 8th at Inventions Winery on Arapahoe Road. They do these wine tastings. And so I'm going to be there to do cooking demo, and they are pairing their wine with our different flavor ghees, and it's going to be this like really fun event. I went for the tasting last week, and it's really interesting. I didn't know anything really about this, but it really does, the taste of the food actually really does change with the wine that you're having. And the people that work here are like experts in this. So it was really cool to watch all that. So it's not on their website yet, but if you are interested, check out Inventions Winery, or, follow us on social. I'll post the link once we have it.
Plus, that is kind of an event that is really easy to promote and share. It's like what you want to share on social. You want
Yeah.
to share these experiences that help people think, oh, we could do it with that, or we could do that, or yeah, this is such a great.
Yeah. And like it makes sense because a lot of the time the questions that we would get are like, what is it and how do I use it? And so here's like a chance for me to kind of explain both and give people like a really fun way to interact with the product.
Very good.
Yeah. So those are my slides. I'm gonna stop sharing there. And that's my one of my kids that I, would make work the farmer's market, but don't tell anyone.
Oh no,
I'm not breaking any labor laws by having
you
child.
can. I know that it can be your own child.
Yeah.
That's not illegal. And that is actually an incredibly good experience for your kids to see you do this work and to be proud of you and to, learn how to sell. I mean, that's really cool. Even though they might bellyache about it, it's such a really cool experience for them.
Totally. I feel like that was like really important that those earlier years, they needed to see me go, even if it was like raining or if it was like really hot or whatever it was, like you still show up for your business, like, so that I do appreciate that they got to see.
Well, tell us more about just ghee in general, because I think I have some of your butter. I mean, I know I actually do have a jar. I think I have two because I've got one that has flavoring in it. And
Oh, okay.
and okay, this is the problem. This is my problem. This is my problem. And I'm sure it probably happens to other people. Because it's fancy, I don't use it as much as I should. So I'll look at it and I'll think, oh, fancy butter. Oh, I'm just going to use the regular butter because this is expensive. Rather
Hmm.
than just consuming it because I love it, I bought it, I wanted it. I tend to save things that I spend more money on or that I value rather than just getting in there and using it. Because, I can always just buy another jar if I use it up. And it
Hmm.
gives me great joy when I use up something. So tell us a little bit about how is that different from regular butter, and what are the health benefits, the Ayurvedic health benefits for it? So
Yeah, so what sets it apart is that it's lactose free. So it's essentially the oil of the butter without the milk solids, because the milk solids have been filtered out. And so you just get this really rich fat that is all the fat. There's no lactose, there's no casein, there's none of the stuff that's usually like a little harder to digest for us. And it has a higher smoke point, which kind of shows you that it's a very stable kind of fat, and it doesn't like oxidize the way olive oil does when you heat it, and it doesn't burn the way butter does when you cook it. And so when you're also eating it, you're having something that's much more stable, and you don't get those like burnt or smoked or oxidized parts into your food. A little bit goes a long way. I think it's going to be a lot more flavorful in a smaller amount, and so we use it both like in the pan to cook. Like your eggs will really, come out different when you use that. Searing something like a steak in it is really nice because you can go to the high temperature and get that perfect, crusty sear. And then we also use it on top of things, as like a finisher, maybe on like some, roasted potatoes or on top of like a pasta and seafood dish. You can use it in a one-to-one kind of ratio in baking as well. Like we'll put it in our like pancake batter when we cook, and also cook the pancakes in it.
Mm. I bet that's so good.
Yeah.
So what would you say have been your biggest challenges?
Um, acquiring new customers is, something that requires a lot of both time and money. So the farmers markets are great because you're in front of a lot of people and you have a chance to acquire a bunch of new customers. But that's a whole lot of time that you're investing. Um, and to do that week after week doesn't feel very sustainable for that long. It's great for the beginning and setting up and starting to build that community. But going from that to the next step of scaling up without some more like marketing spend is hard because on the shelves, like, in the examples that I showed you, on those shelves that we are on, next to us is those other bigger companies like Organic Valley or Fourth and Heart that have, just to give you an example, like Fourth and Heart has been a company I think for about 10 years or 12 years, and they've been fundraising since like 8 years ago or whatever, but their last year their fundraise was for 10 million. So they just have a much larger marketing spend than we would in acquiring new customers. So we're doing it a lot more bootstrapped. And getting someone to try a product for the first time and spending a little bit more on us is definitely a challenge.
Mm. There were those other two companies that you mentioned. Are they also organic and all that?
Yeah, Organic Valley is, um, but they don't have any of the flavor infused ones. So that's like our way of, differentiating. Fourth and Heart is not, but they have really excellent packaging that kind of makes it look like they are.
Oh, yeah.
And they've switched suppliers over time, and now they're no longer manufactured in the U.S. Um, and I think for us, like it's important that we are supporting American dairies and that this is our way of having this American product. Like a part of our story is also like me and my husband are both immigrants and we come from different cultures. I'm Iranian and he's Mexican, and we've kind of come together and fused our foods and, our cultures and languages and whatever. And we've built something that's like really uniquely American. And I really like that part of the story of the brand that, feels really aligned with using American dairies and being manufactured here.
Nice. Now, do you actually go to those dairies yourself? Have you been to the dairy that provides the milk fat for or the milk product for your?
No, I haven't. No, we work with a broker that helps us acquire what we need, but no.
Okay. That would be interesting. It would be probably a good thing to, I would imagine that might be a good social media story to
Hmm.
here's the cow for what it looks like when it comes out, because the original, process of milk and milk fat and all that is really interesting. I think people love the story behind that kind of stuff too, but that is for another day when you've got somebody doing that for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so you talked about the two times you pivoted, one about Amazon and then just the consideration of aluminum and not. What are some other pivots you've made?
Earlier on, we had our branding we changed. So even the name of the company, the name of the brand, we changed. So the first name of the brand was Ayurveda Mama because it was so steeped into Ayurveda and that healthy cooking and healthy eating lifestyle aspect that felt really aligned. And most of the time, people don't know how to spell Ayurveda or like what that is. So that alone was like something that, was a barrier for some people. And then also, it didn't have, the name of what the product is in the brand. So that was even more like it just took so much education and explanation for what the product is. And you have enough of that challenge with ghee, which now, people do know, or, there's some, but there's still a lot of people that don't know what it is or, why you'd want to use it. So, it needed to just be like crystal clear, like what our brand name is and what the product is. And there was this whole like hierarchy of how that, is supposed to be displayed on the actual label. So that was a really, really good time for us to like just hone in on what our messaging is meant to be.
Oh, that's so interesting. I love I'm really glad that that's something you presented, this idea of you change your branding and your name, because that is what happens. It happens. And it might be that you start off with a name, you love your name, you're like it's your name, and then you get a cease and desist letter from somebody in Arkansas who actually used it before you and, claims it as theirs. And then you have to change and you think that my life is over. And
Yeah.
not. You just have to figure it out again and do it again. And so that's what happens. Then you have to throw out all those old labels that you're not going to use anymore. And I don't know. Those things happen and it's okay.
Yeah. And I mean, like in our case, it's definitely for the better. Like it for sure, we get a lot of compliments on the packaging. And I think like the name is just something like really warm, it's inviting, and it like fits with the brand and the product really well. I feel like I see this a lot with newer CPG in particular. Like there's a name that's like either like really clever or means something to the owners or the founders of the company. But if it doesn't translate to something that the consumer can decide if they want within like 3 seconds, maybe max, that they'll see it on the shelf, like there was kind of no value to that.
Exactly. And the Ayurveda piece, you're right. People can't spell it. They wouldn't know how to Google it because
Right?
they're spelling wrong. So you have to somehow you buy all the URLs with all the various ways of spelling Ayurveda. I mean, that's so crazy. Yeah, it needs to be simple.
Right.
Appreciate that. So how does your company address sustainability and your impact on people and the planet?
Our focus on that has been a lot on our sourcing. So, I tried really hard in the beginning actually to source locally, like from Colorado dairies, if I could. And that was really challenging because I wanted grass fed and organic as well. And we live in a very arid state that is experiencing a drought even right now with like barely any snow cover this year. That having grass fed dairy here is really hard and consumes a lot of water to grow the grass to feed the cows. That I decided that that wasn't what we were going to do. And I've been sourcing instead from places where it rains a lot more. And then as a result, also the dairy just is better. Like you can tell even from like the color of, what you get. And so that's been something that's important to us. The herbs also that we use, I am really particular with where those sources are and, you know, the quality of what we get there.
So what is next? What's next for you? Where do you see yourself going in the next year and then in 5 years?
This year, so, from 24 to 25, we had a dip in our sales. So 25 was a harder year. And I think, it could be a number of things. Our costs went up, our packaging, like even for us, like, although we were able to reduce our price, but, our glass probably comes from China. So those costs went up. And we didn't see as many reorders, and even the reorders that we had were of lower quantities. So for this year, I really want to try to nurture some of those customers that we have already and the clients and the retail places that we're in and try to build some more new relationships for new stores that we can get into. Within the next 5 years, our plan is to move into co-manufacturing so that that part is not something that we do, and we do just a lot more of the fulfillment side of it
And marketing.
and all the other stuff. Yeah.
Hopefully, a ship, we're using refrigeration.
No, I don't need, so the final product, I don't need to have refrigerated. So because it doesn't have any of the milk solids, it's actually shelf stable.
Okay.
So, yeah, we don't need to refrigerate. And we keep, in our warehouse, we keep the product in a refrigerated section. That's just because it's better for it. But in shipping, I don't need to do that.
Okay. So you so the so co I would imagine the costs went up because of tariffs. Did that seem to be the link?
That seemed to be it. I mean, we purchase our packaging from like a packaging broker, so he's sourcing from different places, and that was just like there was a little bit of a bump in the price there.
And who does the labeling for you? Is that the broker, the packaging broker also provides labeling?
No, I've been sourcing our labeling from a company that was local to Colorado, and they were great because I could drive over there and pick up, a package, and I could like talk to them. That company got bought out, and so now our labels come from somewhere else, which I'm not like thrilled about, and I'm actually open to like sourcing again locally if I can. So yeah, I mean it's interesting. Like I started the company in 21 and like from 21 to 26, like barely any of our suppliers have stayed the same. Like I mean our herbs have probably stayed the same, even though there's fluctuation there. But almost like all the other stuff, I've just had to like keep looking and just keep looking for either better prices or better quality or something.
Oh, interesting.
Hmm.
Okay, so what advice do you have for new entrepreneurs looking to start a business?
I think you want to get really clear on what pain point are you solving for your customer? Like, what is it that you want to give them, and why would they want that? If you can get clear on that, that helps your marketing message a lot. Um, Yeah, I think clarity is hard is a good one. And I think, being open to changing all the time. Like those first couple of years, I changed, we don't do anything the same as we did when we first started, really. Like I said, like all of our suppliers have changed, like where we produce has changed, our branding changed. So I think just being open and listening to people around you who are giving advice, but also listen to people who are that you don't agree with and have a really good reason for why you do or don't want to do something. Like, the Amazon example was good because there was a number of people that were like encouraging the Amazon growth because I do think Amazon can be good for small businesses, but having experienced it, I can see all the reasons why it just wasn't the right fit for us then. But yeah, just being open to trying and then changing. Just like you're getting new data, you're getting new information all the time. Just be ready to like adapt. And when you're small, you can do it. Like you can make those changes much easier than when you've grown.
Oh, absolutely. Okay, so tell us something about your business that would actually surprise us.
Hmm. Um, I don't know. I feel like I laid it kind of all out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about like what about like the idea of expanding into new flavors, or do you see how your business could expand into something else? Is there something else, or are you pretty committed to keeping it, like five different flavors and, two different sizes? Or tell us how.
Yeah. So I think one part I didn't talk about was the food service part of it. So selling to restaurants or chefs, that is something that I want to expand on. That ended up being a great revenue stream for the last 2 years. we've seen that revenue stream increase, which is really nice. And it's, really nice from an operations standpoint because it's so much easier. It's one large package. The labor is less. The margin is smaller, but it's also this like guarantee because it's like every month I know there will be this amount that goes out the door for that. So it makes operations a lot easier. As opposed to like my online sales for a consumer, like those could fluctuate. I could get, there's no like set amount that I get per week. That can all just kind of like jump around. So I think that's something that was sort of interesting. In terms of new flavors, I'm really hesitant because all that would mean new artwork, new graphics, new labels. And so the cost to start that, I'm not interested in right now.
Makes sense.
Hmm.
Wow. I keep coming up with these questions and I keep forgetting to write them down. Darn it. Okay, so talk about the SKU. I don't know if people know what that is.
Yeah, so every product has a barcode on it, and that is a barcode that you get from a organization called GS1 that has like a standardized form for these barcodes, and all the like retail outlets link up to that GS1 so that the information that I put in for our product in the GS1, the retailers see that when they scan it. And so this barcode that we have, the first, I don't know, like eight digits or something are unique to our company, and then the last three are unique to that exact item. So exact item would be that flavor as well as that size. So if anything changes in the ingredients or in the size, then it's a new SKU. It would be a new barcode.
Hey, and what about the QR code? I saw there was a QR code. Where does that take people?
The QR code on our package takes you to the recipe page on our website.
Okay, oh, that's cool.
I've been trying to mess around with the QR codes as just a way for people to link up with us. Like, I'm also required to have, how people can reach us on the labels. There's, certain things that you're required to have on there. Um, and so I have that. And then the rest I can include other ways of marketing or whatever I want. And so the QR code was just like one more way, like maybe someone sees this, maybe they're not going to buy it, but they'll scan the QR and at least they've had some contact with us.
Okay, well, this is kind of like the last question. So do you have another job or did you to begin with and you've been able to stop? Tell us about that.
Yeah, I do work part-time elsewhere too, which has been helpful. And that's all like part-time contract work, so I don't have a full-time job elsewhere, but certain weeks, at a minimum I would work like maybe 10 hours somewhere else up to like maybe 20. But that'll help me at least bring in some funds to help pay for other stuff because the company has been all sort of self-funded. So, I mean, I've had the fortune of having the grants that have helped, but being cash flow funded is really hard because that cash flow is not, always the same. And then if you get a large order, there's something that you have to purchase. And then if you don't have the funds for it, that can be really challenging, especially because some of the accounts, they don't pay you for sometimes net 30, sometimes net 60, sometimes net 90 days. It's sort of like up to them. So
Oh,
you
yes. It
always need to have something.
shouldn't be up to them, but that's what happens.
Yeah, right.
Simply go to only use a good credit card. If you want 30 days, you're going to use your credit card, and that'll give you 30 days. Because I wasn't in the business of collecting invoice, do it
Yeah.
whatever. And is that a problem? Has that been a problem for you?
Not really. Yeah, I don't, there are some accounts that I do have to follow up on. So yeah, that's a pain. But in Shopify, it'll show me all the like unpaid ones and like how past due they are, and that so it that helps me being able to follow up. It's a little bit less manual work there, but yeah, it's not been a huge problem, at least not for the larger accounts, I would say.
Oh, good. Well, I appreciate you coming on and doing this with us and sharing your story. It's been so great. So great. Thank you. Thank you.